have told me, and you can back me up on this, that they don't always get a lot of acknowledgement or a lot of compliments. Maybe with men, there tends to be more of a competitive nature. So they're maybe not, that's more the hey dude on the back or whatever, than paying each other or really acknowledging the deeper qualities of each other or paying each other compliments. Maybe more evolved men like you do are good at that, but I think a lot of men maybe are not. And so men have told me that they don't get a lot of compliments. A lot of men have told me they don't get a lot of acknowledgement, appreciation, or compliments. And so when a woman notices something like that about them, a nice smile or a nice demeanor or a nice presence, it made me think of this man that I used to know years ago, back when I was single, and I would attend sometimes these singles events and parties and see this one man there from time to time. And he and I never dated, but we became friends. I actually dated his roommate a little bit, but he had this presence. I mean, when he walked in the room, there was just, the way he carried himself. He was a very tall man, but he just carried himself with a lot of dignity and class, and always was groomed very nicely. And I said to him a few times, I said, you just have this demeanor that looks like you have a really important and significant presence. I said, I think I'm going to call you president because you look like you should be the president of something.
I love
Right.
that.
So then I would see him and I'd say, hey, president. And he kind of blushed, but he would just light up. I mean, I could tell he just loved this. Right. And this was, I wasn't necessarily trying to date him because, like I said, I dated his roommate a bit, which would have been a little weird, but we were friends and it just made him feel so good. That's just a really simple thing. But it was something that I noticed about him that was true. I was paying a sincere compliment to him. And he loved it. He ate it up.
I'm actually glad you told that story because it sparked something in my brain that I think is really important, right? He is showing up with his presence. And because of that kind of presence, he probably experienced significantly less self-doubt. It doesn't mean he didn't have self-doubt. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have fear in other areas. But in some areas, he felt very confident, and that was conveyed non-verbally by the feeling and the way he moved his body, which is beautiful. And I love that. And if you are a lady or a gentleman who might be watching this, if you are a lady and you are afraid in some way, because circling back to our conversation about fear, if you're afraid of being rejected or you're afraid of what somebody might say or whatever the fear is that's holding you back, the problem is you don't have the confidence that you want to actually move forward. So we can let go of the fear, or we can look at the root and go, okay, hold on. Why do I feel like I'm lacking confidence? Where am I confident? Where do I feel secure? The moment I say, where am I confident? It assumes that I'm confident in some area. When I said those words right now, I said, okay, where am I confident? Inside, I don't know if you could see it, but it was real subtle. Like I lifted myself up even more. I felt lighter. I felt confident inside. I felt stronger. I felt more focused and more intentional. Like I want to use the word precise. I felt more precise in my intention. Let me say it that way. I felt more precise in my intention. And all I said was, where am I more confident? Where am I confident? What areas of my life am I confident in? And all of a sudden, when I did that, everything settles inside of me. The fear disappears. And what is my brain focused on? Where am I confident? But if I'm like, oh, I'm so afraid. What am I focused on? Oh, I'm so afraid. Right? What do you want to focus on? Because what you pour your attention into is what's going to manifest for you.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that was good. What you pour your attention into is going to manifest for you.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a perfect segue to something I want to talk to you about too.
Okay, cool.
Which is, first of all, I just want to acknowledge what you just said there. That was really powerful because I do believe that our minds and our thoughts are so incredibly, incredibly powerful. And connecting to that place, those places where we do feel more confident. And sometimes it's from the inside out, and sometimes it helps from the outside in. I mean, the way this man dressed and the way he carried himself, like this was part of who he was, but I'm sure that made him feel more confident inside. And so, it kind of goes both ways, I guess. But what I wanted to talk to you about was this idea and explore this a little deeper. And this goes right along with what you just said of focusing our mind and our attention, our thoughts and our words into what we do want rather than what we don't want. Because I believe that when we are thinking thoughts, if they're thoughts of fear and doubt and lack and scarcity, which are common thoughts for people to have if they've been struggling in their love life for a long period of time, or thoughts of rejection. I've known people who are afraid to even actually get to a point of going on a date because they're so sure and so afraid that they're going to be rejected that they sabotage the process before they even get to that point.
Mhm.
But I believe that when we're thinking those kinds of thoughts, what we're doing is we're actually creating more of the same. I believe that we're in the creative process based on our thoughts and our words. So I always encourage my clients and women that I work with to speak into and think into what they do want and not what they don't want. And like when they're writing their profiles, when I'm helping them write their dating profiles, speaking into what they do want, the vision of what they do want, what they would like to co-create with someone, rather than if you're such and such, no need to apply. You see those things
Yeah.
in profiles. And so I just would like to explore this idea with you a little bit. Do you resonate with that? Do you believe that we're actually creating with our thoughts and with our words, and we want to speak into it, think into what we do want to create?
Yes, I say it slightly different now when I'm talking about resilience, but I do believe that. And here's how I put it slightly differently. You're always committed to something, right? Resilience is born from commitment. So you're either going to be resilient for something like fear your attachment to trauma. No, I can't let this go. I'm going to be resilient no matter what you try to do to take it away from me. I'm going to hold fast to this trauma and this sadness and this fear and this sense of unworthiness. Or you can commit to what you're talking about is the confidence, what you have to offer, the value that you're going to bring and the value that you're looking for, right? What specifically are you looking for that you want? And so when you're committed to that, you look for those kinds of features in a particular person. And when they don't show up, you're able to say, oh, well, these are the things I'm looking for and they're not there because they're top of mind. So if resilience is born from commitment and you commit to these things that you want in a partner and in a relationship, then you won't allow yourself to accept less than that because you'll be resilient. Nope, this is my focus. Nope, this is my commitment, right? And so what you're saying is because of that, you create this for yourself. Excuse me. You create this for yourself, but but's the wrong word. Commitment, creation, right? Commitment is you won't accept less. Creation is because you won't accept less. The creation comes during the process of creating what you want. It's the resilience gives you the space to be creative. And so those are both super important aspects, and we're saying the same thing. Mm-hmm. There is one thing that you said that I think I'm going to forget it. I'm going to try to remember. When you're helping people create their profiles and saying what it is that they want, I think it's important that we look at what we want. Number one, what do we want? And then B, we say, okay, now, how do I get it? Right? And how do I get it may mean I want these kinds of characteristics and qualities in a partner. Now, how do I become the person that's attractive to that kind of person that I want? How do I ensure that I'm becoming this person that is the equal of what I want? Mm-hmm. Because so many times people, and guys are terrible at this. I know most of your listeners and viewers are ladies, but guys are notoriously terrible at this. Guys will notoriously say, I want a model and she has to, like sex and all my friends have to love her and she has to like that I like sports and, all these crazy things. but then they don't do anything to shift their own psychology or their own behaviors to actually be a man who nurtures an intimate relationship and creates deep connection with her so that she feels like, oh, I'm getting everything that I need and I want from this relationship. So let me also continue to support. So I just want to make sure that when we identify all the things that we want, we also look at, okay, now who do I get to be to actually nurture that kind of relationship and that kind of person?
Yeah, and I think that really comes back to our whole overall conversation here, PJ, is the commitment to being that highest and best self, and to look at what the areas within ourselves that might need a little bit of cleanup work, clean up on aisle 7, whatever. and recognize, while still doing it with that self-compassion that we talked about, recognizing that we're all human, we're all works in progress, we're all continuing to grow. And I agree, your point is so important, because I do think there does tend to be a tendency out there for us to focus on what we want and not as much of a focus on who we are and who we want to become in order to invite that into our lives. So I think our whole conversation blends beautifully into that idea. And I think it is so important. I just believe that with, everything that we create in our lives, it's created first in our minds and in our hearts. It's like if you set an intention to be an author, to write a book, that's something that's created first in our minds and our hearts before it becomes a reality in the real world. And it's like, so this is why I say I believe we're in the creative process when we're creating in our minds and in our hearts through our thoughts and through our words.
Yeah.
And these other things that we've been talking about, the fears, the doubts, the lack of worthiness, the things from the past holding us back, those kinds of things are what can hold us back. But I just think it's empowering, comes back to what you said at the beginning of our conversation, to remember that we have choice. And sometimes we really forget how much choice we have in terms of our own lives. And it's empowering for us to remember that.